Okay.
Hi. Hey, Chris Craft. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Megan?
Well, just another day, another podcast.
Yeah, we were just talking offline about client stuff, right?
hmm
Getting to the bottom, how to make things easier.
Yeah, clients are awesome.
Yeah, they are. They
Most
are.
of most of the time. Clients can be very clienty sometimes.
They could.
So you just gotta learn how to deal with it. What part of the world do you live in?
Checking in from Atlanta, Georgia.
Fantastic.
A little bit south of Atlanta, a town called Sharpsburg, but it's in the greater Atlanta area. Love
Okay.
it out here. And you're in San Diego, right?
I am. Yeah. Yeah, I am.
Beautiful
I love
city.
it.
Yeah.
It is, and I love everything about my situation, except that I haven't been able to go anywhere for 7 months.
Ugh.
So I'm fixing to get out of Dodge. We have your friend Gregory he says, "What's up, Chris?"
Ah,
All right.
Mr. Castell, what's up?
Okay, I'm gonna kick off the podcast. Hello, and welcome to episode 67 of the Making a Marketer podcast. I'm Megan Powers with Powers of Marketing, and my guest today is Chris Craft. Hi, Chris.
What's up? What's going on, world? Hey, how you doing, Megan?
Good. I am excited to have you on. I am a word nerd like yourself. And although I didn't get like an engineering degree or whatever you did to end up as a writer, but I got my bachelor's in English and my master's in communication. So
You did it the right way.
well, I mean, you're well-rounded, and if you're a writer, you're a writer. Like that's cool. If that's your jam, you can do anything, which is why it's kind of funny when I was getting my English degree, of course, everyone was like, "Oh, so you're going to teach?" No.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother Kevin said, "Oh, because only teachers need to know how to write well."
Right.
Exactly.
I tell my kids, if you can write and do basic math, I mean, that's like more than half the battle in life, in career.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So our topic today is crafting creative copywriting with Chris Craft. Chris, like myself, has a pretty good last name for what we do.
I'm telling you.
I've got the powers. You've got your crafty. We got this dialed in. All right. And your Maureen Jan Heiler is on.
Yes.
She says, "Hey, Chris."
Hey, Maureen.
All right. All right. I'm going to read your bio. Chris Craft is the Chief Content Officer at Neolux Marketing Agency and founder at Now Media. And they have a new community and podcast, and we'll talk about that at the end. Make sure everyone sticks around so they can hear the stuff. Chris helps healthcare and tech companies grow through content marketing. He serves customers through content strategy, copywriting, blogging, and copy editing. I love it. So editing is, I like to say, is my superpower. I can see a single space on a page that doesn't belong there. It's really freaky. It just like jumps out at me.
But what if it's your own copy? Does that include your own copy or other people's copy?
It does, if not at first blush, if I go back to it. But yeah, you're right. Of course, we see what we think we wrote instead of what we actually wrote.
Right.
Which is why it's so funny. Somebody posed the question online the other day, what do you do to what are some of your editing hacks? And for me, if I make something weird, no matter what kind of document it is, if I make it a PDF and then look at it as a PDF, I always catch things that I don't catch otherwise. I don't know what it is. If it's the clarity that it creates, I don't know what it is, but I always got to be ready to read PDF like 10 times if I'm PDFing something, because inevitably I'll find like 5 things, and I'll find it and then I'll go back and I'm like, "No, Megan, go through the whole thing once and then go back and make the changes." So anyway,
that's cool. Yeah, I haven't heard that one before. That's neat.
I don't know. I mean, everyone has their own things. All right, so let's talk strategy. I'm the chief strategist for my company. So strategy is my jam. I think that you shouldn't do anything without figuring out why you are doing it. So
Certainly.
in terms of developing content, in terms of writing, how do you approach developing out a content strategy for your clients?
Sure. So Maureen, who just checked in with us, is all things strategy for Neolux. She's awesome, and we make a pretty awesome team. So I'm speaking as her proxy right now, but what Maureen does, and there I'm there as a fly on the wall. Really, what she does really well is make it conversational when we're doing onboarding of a new client. And we sit and take our time, and we don't try to jam our first onboarding session where we're doing intake into 30 minutes. We take however long it takes to ask all the required questions to get to the bottom line of what we're going to be creating for them, so that we can create a creative brief that's accurate and that's in line with the scope of the work. What I think is awesome about our combination at Neolux is that we do a good job at balancing the art and the human side of the project that we're taking on, to identify the problem and the core method for solving the problem that our client does. But we also look at the science of it. And my skill, I'm able to pull, and I guess it's the engineer in me, I'm able to pull keywords and topics and themes out of the feedback we get from our strategy sessions, and that helps us build out a map of sorts that's in line with a customer journey, that's in line with the content calendar that we'll be laying out for our clients. So really, I guess, to sum it all up, what it comes down to is just taking the time to be patient and to let the client be comfortable to tell us all that they need to know in the beginning, and that makes the engagement a whole lot easier as we roll it out.
Yeah, and revisiting is smart too. Maureen says you're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, Mo.
All right, I love that. I have a sister named Maureen, and Mo, we call her Mo also. That's awesome. Reen also. Reen is fine.
Oh,
Reen,
wow.
Yeah.
Reen.
Actually, we call her Reen more than we call her Mo. Now that I say that out loud. All right. So writing's hard for a lot of people, right? Like,
yes.
Content block, or writer's block is a real thing. So yeah, do you have any tips for combating writer's block?
Yeah, so I say this all the time. Either you're a morning writer or you're an evening writer, right? I don't know anyone who's both. I know either the person that burns the midnight oil, or like me, you're that? I'm the total opposite. I'm the I can't do that. Maybe in college I used to do that, which is probably the reason why I didn't get good grades in English in college, funny enough. But I would say know the type of writer you are in terms of the time of day, and stick with it. So my number one hack is get good rest. For me, wake up early when distractions are limited, aka before our kids wake up, and write with a fresh mind. And another very, very underrated thing is the outline. So we rank number one for inspiredfirst.com for the keyword, the 3x3 writing process. And it basically steps through 9 steps of how to create well-written content. And one of those early steps after you do all your research is to take that research and write an outline. Because a lot of people go into their zero draft method, and it sounds good to brain dump rather. But if you have a map of how you want to lay things out with the outline, I think that really helps combat writer's block, because you already have the flow right there for you. And if you're blogging, that outline, you'll see that the outline ends up becoming the structure for your subheads that encompass your content. So I would say those are the 2 main things to combat writer's block: get good rest, Or if you're a nighttime writer, make sure all distractions are out the way. Don't try to look at TV, while doing your writing, and do an outline, and you'll be well on your way.
I like all those tips. That's awesome. Yeah, I will confess that I tend to, especially when I'm blogging, I just go. But normally it's because there's something. This is for my own, not if I'm writing for a client, that's something different.
Right.
But for me, when I'm blogging myself, I like something hits me and I'm like, I got to write about that. And then I just go.
Yeah.
But I will say I have been blogging less because I'm not traveling. I do some of my best writing on an airplane. And so I will have lots of hours of air travel in the next month. I'm taking a big trip on Friday. So yeah, that's one of my goals for my trip is to do some writing, and I'm gonna outline.
Do you zone out to music at all sometimes when you write?
I typically have, it's funny. My whole life, music in the background for all things at all times. Yeah. And then in the last few months, I've found myself in silence a lot, like not on purpose, but it'll hit me like, oh, I just got into that. I didn't turn anything on. Maybe I'll just leave it off and see how this goes. But there is certain kinds of music, that I think depending on what you're writing about, like can get you going.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's actually a good segue to my next question, which is, what resources do you use to spark creativity in the writing that you do?
So my first entrepreneurial venture out of college was a record label. So music is very near and dear to me. And so I will say that is the number one thing. Music sets the mood. As a matter of fact, late last week, Inspire First launched its first Spotify playlist for writers. So definitely go check that out. Music without words, because words tend to distract me, unless it's Radiohead. I could kind of, drone out to Radiohead's music. But yeah, I would say music, number one. Number two is passion for the topic. That really, gets me going. And if you don't have passion for the topic, there's no harm in outsourcing it to a subject matter expert, because especially for client writing, you want your passion and your understanding of the idea or the topic at hand to come through in the writing. I would say those two things really get me going.
Having a passion for the top, that's like that just kind of hits home for me with something I've been struggling with a little bit. It's not an industry that I'm immersed in, and the client really thinks they know what they want, but they aren't awesome about articulating it.
Right.
Which leads me to my next question.
Here we go.
So sometimes clients have difficulty articulating what their vision is and what they're looking for from you, which can make a writer's job a little bit more challenging. So do you have any tips for facilitating that exchange at the beginning of a project, and then potentially through many rounds of revisions? Because, you think you got it, and then turns out you didn't get it. And then the client's like, try again.
Try again.
What are your...
And again.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
So my thoughts is, my, mentor in a lot of these areas is a fine lady named Jeannie Dietrich. I love Jeannie. And she would slap my hands whenever I would take on a client without making a strategy session mandatory. And that's no longer the case. I used to do it all the time. But in client writing, you have to take that time early on. Honestly, sometimes the first month of the engagement doesn't involve any content creation. It's just going back and forth, doing strategy, content calendar creation, keyword research. All those things lead up to making the actual content creation part of it the cherry on top, where it's easy. For our agency, NeoLux, we have a 2 revision maximum for our engagements. So that's baked into the service agreement. So expectations are set early on. But honestly, we do so much pre-work ahead of time that, and I'm not trying to brag here, but typically our first drafts are pretty darn good, and it's rare we have to go into multiple back and forth. So that's what I would say. I would say have as intimate of a relationship with the client before you start the writing, and that will save you from a lot of headaches later on.
Yeah, all great advice. It is that whole we're at our 2 revision max conversation is kind of a hard one to have with the client.
Tough.
Like, I don't think I've actually ever had it, to be honest. I just like, okay, I'll do it. Or I'll get to the point where even if I disagree, I'm like, okay, I'll write it like that. You got it.
Yeah. Yeah, especially early on, we have the client is always right, type of thing, early in the engagement. But over time, once you hit a rhythm, even after the writing portion of the engagement, I think when you hit that rhythm, you and your client kind of become one after a while, if they're patient enough to stick with you, right? And I think it should become easier over time.
Or you with them.
Right.
This maybe.
Right.
Yeah. All great advice. All right. So, this is something I am not great at doing. Like, it's something on my list of things to do. Repurposing content. Like, there's so much gold in all of these podcast episodes,
yes.
and I have not mined that gold for other things. So, but obviously, repurposing content's a good way to stretch a good idea across several different channels, platforms over time. Do you have a process that helps you figure out what content's best to repurpose, and how do you go about that?
Yeah. So we do a lot of long form content writing at first. And we write content with the intent of breaking up that content and using it in different ways, right? So we write content, when we take our outline, we already see how that content is going to be broken up into 8 to 10 tweets. We see how that content could be turned into an abstract that will end up becoming, semi-long form LinkedIn copy. So we do, I would say repurposing is just all about being intentional. Also, it helps a lot if you have a team. There's no way I would be able to do what we do if it weren't for Maureen and Greg and Drake and other team members that help us out, because I can write an article and it's really cool to see how Greg turns that article into a Pinterest pin, right? And it's just like, whoa, I would have never thought to approach this long form piece of copy and turn it into something visual. The cool thing that we just started to do, I would say about a month ago, is that we start to turn our long form pieces into carousels for Instagram, and people are really, really loving it. So check out our Neo Lux Instagram, and you can see how we turn our articles into really visually stimulating, high aesthetic pieces that you could flip through. And then boom, you've turned a blog post into an ebook of sorts. So yeah, I would say intentionality is the number one thing. And then having some people you can bounce ideas off of that can turn that article into tweets, into visual assets, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely need to be turning these episodes into blog posts at a minimum. But yeah, there's definitely some other stuff we could be doing to draw people to the podcast as well. So I, right before COVID, actually at the beginning of COVID, I purchased a new URL for the podcast, and I haven't done anything with it yet. But makingamarketerpodcast.com, I own that. It'll one day
be
another spot.
Well, a cool thing, I got some feedback on our podcast. Like, I sent someone to an episode page and they're like, hey, where's the transcription? And I didn't really think that someone would be looking for the transcription. But that it satisfies a couple things. Some people would, if they didn't catch, audibly something that the speaker said, they could go and just scan and find that timestamp and read that portion of the interview. And it can increase time on site, which is a SEO signal, which is a really cool thing for the podcast episode page. So we've really loved using Rev or Timmy, the AI version of Rev, just to turn our podcast into a written form.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, the thing that's been holding me back is the expense of transcription.
Yeah.
And so I need to. Otter is a tool that I was referred to, so I'm going to take a look at that. Yeah, because I definitely don't have time. I'm not transcribing it myself, but also I could just, based on having listened, I listened to each episode like 3 times, right? Because we're producing it, so I could, if I worked it into my workflow, then I could like just write that blog post straight away.
Yeah.
And then it could also be commentary on what was said versus just being, an exact replica of what. But it also does help you to pull quotes and stuff for social.
That's right.
Yeah.
I believe that's our next step, is the commentary of what we say within our pod. Right now, it's just a straight transcription, but I love that idea.
Well, and this season, we started pulling quotes out. So there will be some pearl of wisdom or 2 of yours that'll be the lead in to the show. So it plays, and then the welcome music and all of that kind of stuff goes, and then the show kicks off. And it's nice, I think, because I of course I got the idea from listening to podcasts where I was like, oh, that's cool, because they're giving you a taste of what to expect to try to hopefully get people to stay on listening.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, isn't it?
It is, but it's actually my favorite part of my job. I also host another podcast called Inside Events. And that one is one that I get paid to do. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I haven't monetized this, but indirectly I have.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us about this new community and a little bit more about Inspire First, your podcast and stuff.
Sure. So inspirefirst.com is our community / all home for products associated with Neolux marketing. And we are all about the art and science of good writing. So when you go to our website, which is mostly centered around our blog, you'll see content that helps you do everything from crafting grammatically correct content or copy, to content about SEO tools, to even articles about how to write poetry.
Wow.
We want to have the full 360 approach for how to become a more complete writer or author, whether self-published or not. And I just think what it is that we're in an age right now where we're coming through the whole blogging is dead thing, where people were espousing that. And it could be the furthest thing from the truth. Blogs dominate Google search result pages. Like we mentioned earlier, blogs, are often the first stage that you pull things from for repurposing. And we just want to get that out there and be out in front and being the people that talk about that balance between the art and science of really good copy and sound content marketing. So yeah, inspirefirst.com. We love what we do. And funny enough, when we were doing our marketing strategy for Neolux, which is only 3 months old, we're new into this thing. Inspire First inspired us to create a content calendar for Neolux that basically drafts off all that we do on the Inspire First side, and we do nice bite-sized versions of the articles that we write and publish on the Inspire First side, and we publish them to all of Neolux's channels. So the two initiatives are very married together, and the synthesis is really sound for our community. Oh, Megan, it looks like we might be frozen. Oh no, technology got the best of us.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So I think that timing of the interruption was could have been worse. So we'll just continue on, and
Yeah.
then through the magic of editing. Yeah, my router went out, so I wasn't even on Wi-Fi. I was connected to my LAN, and
Oh
and then
no.
trying to connect through my phone, which that's what I'm on, connected on my phone. But of course, it wasn't working. So good
Oh,
times.
good times.
Okay.
It's all right. We power through. Look at
All
there.
right.
Power through.
Now I'm having trouble with on your end. I hope this stays. Okay. We're almost there. So, are you there? You're frozen
Yeah.
for me. Okay. Your video is frozen. But okay. So I was just gonna say on the last thing on the inspirefirst.com. So then all of that you're doing for that feeds into the podcast plan then, ideally, right?
Yes, exactly.
What topics and all that kind of good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, everyone, please go check out that podcast, inspirefirst.com will get you there. One final question. What are you, or I'll let you choose. Do you want to answer the superpower question or what tech gadgets apps are you hot on?
Let's go with superpower.
Superpower. Okay. If you could have a superpower in your job, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. Superpower empathy. Yeah, definitely. I would love to be able to better feel what others have gone through without me having gone through their experience on my own. I think that would be killer for not only as a writer but as a leader at our business. I think it'll be great.
Okay. I'm having a hard time hearing you. So I think that's just a sign that it's time to wrap.
Oh no.
I hopefully the audio is caught on your end and it's just a connectivity thing on my end, and it's being captured still. So I'm gonna have faith that is the case. So I wanna thank everyone who was with us live during the show today. Thank you if you're watching on the replay or listening on the podcast. We appreciate you very much. Thank Chris and our guest today. This was awesome.
Thank you, Megan. I'm sorry that we had audio issues at the end.
I'm sure the issue's on my end. All good, no worries. Hey man, this technology, this is what happens. It's 2020 for crying out loud.
2020. What a fitting way.
All right. So this has been episode 67 of the Making a Marketer podcast, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you, Megan.
All right. So it's actually not letting me end it. Can you hit end broadcast from your end or not?
Let's see. I have leave studio. That's all I could do.